My name's Tess Mehonoshen. I'm the current artist at Hurstville Museum and Gallery's residency program in Carr's Bush Parkland. For the past few years, I've been making work around the concept of place, examining my personal relationship to sites by looking at notions of loss, connection, the domestic, and tensions between urban and rural, indoor and outdoor. I'm interested in how materiality in site-specific installations can inform my own understanding of different places. Residencies are a really useful way of interrogating these ideas, and I do that primarily by using found local materials in my responses to sites. So when deciding on a location, it's really important to take into consideration all the other factors, particularly when working with ephemeral works out of doors. So the weather comes into play a lot when I'm deciding what days or times I'll be planning on doing the installation, and also just things like if the area is somewhere that the general public's going to want to walk across or interact with. Those kind of things is something that is nice to keep in mind when I'm planning on making work. For this installation, I chose a fairly simple setting, just a picnic table within the parkland. I was drawn to that because of the circular cement shape, thought just visually would work really well. And it was also a good location in terms of it had a nice flat surface to work on, and the colour of the cement would provide a good contrast between the materials I was using. Once I'd chosen the installation location, I needed to gather some materials, so I sourced some sand from the beach directly in front of the artist cottage in Carr's Park. I first sieved the sand to make sure I got out all the rocks and large sticks from it. Because of the location that I'd chosen, it was quite a light coloured cement, and I wanted to make a work with quite a stark contrast, so I decided to add iron oxide to this batch of sand to give it the black colouring. I then went about getting my frame ready, so gathering all my materials in the studio and constructing a very simple wood frame. And for this work, the fabric that I was using was some smaller lace curtains, so in order to make it fit the larger frame, I decided to sew two pieces together. Once I'd sewn the pieces of fabric together to be one piece, I blocked out certain areas using masking tape and then stretched the piece of fabric onto the wooden frame using small nails and a small hammer. So once the frame was ready, I'd take all my materials on site and set up, generally lay out a drop sheet off to the side. Then it's just simply a matter of choosing the best place to start from in terms of patterning. I just decided to start in the middle of the circle and work my way across horizontally and underneath the picnic table. And then it was just a matter of sprinkling the sand as uniformly as possible across the top of the fabric while the stencil is placed on the ground. So once one was covered, it's just a matter of carefully moving the frame and keeping it steady so that the excess sand doesn't fall off, and realigning it so that the patterns match up for the next one. And every so often I dispose of the excess sand and the drop sheet to the side. So it's just basically repeating that process over and over. And in this work I was working underneath the table legs and around the posts, so I was a bit fiddly and kind of have to stop and start a bit, but just taking my time and kind of enjoying being outside while installing. And after a few hours I'd covered the entire cement surface in the patterning, so it's just a matter of clearing away my materials and documenting the finished work. For this work, and for many that I've made during this residency, I've been working in public spaces a bit, so it's always nice to work in these kind of environments where people walking past take interest and come over and ask questions, and you can kind of get feedback on the work straight away. So with all my work, because it's ephemeral in nature, I always plan on documenting the process, not only once the work's finished, but in different times of day when the lighting changes or when the weather might have changed the patterning or blown something away. So for this work, it only took about half an hour. A storm rolled over and the work almost completely blew away, but I was able to document that process and get some really interesting photos, both that afternoon when it got rained on and then the next morning after as well, where you could see all the environmental changes that had happened just simply through the weather. So not only had the work changed from being rained on and blown away, but there's also markings from animals and people's footprints. So it's really important to me to document all the different changes and markings, whatever it's from. And this may happen over the course of a week, or it might be really quick like this at work. Because the work is only temporary, by documenting through photo and video all the different stages of disintegration allows me to work with those images after the fact and use the photographs as evidence of not only the installation, but of my time at the site, and in this case, my time at the residency period. My time away on residency has been really beneficial for my work. I've been able to work in a variety of different environments, in the bush, in the parkland, and also in community spaces like the halls. And this has really allowed me different, not only installation locations to experiment with, but also just to work really directly within the community and get feedback from people who are local and live in the area and love these spaces.